I've lived and worked in Las Vegas for almost 30 years now, working all types of jobs, from being a valet, bartender. Hell, I've even tried my hand at being a dealer. It wasn't for me. During my time here, I've seen some of the wildest and weirdest things you could imagine. And for every crazy story I can tell you, I have countless more weird and crazy stories that my friends and coworkers have told me about over the years. In this video, I'm going to tell you some of the craziest stories I've experienced as a Vegas local, as well as some stories from my friends, and even some crazy stories and rumors that have been told and retold so many times, the details may or may not be a bit over-exaggerated at this point. To protect my privacy and those of who told me their stories, some details have been changed or omitted, most especially people's names and specific dates or locations that could implicate some people. Especially some of the weird stories I've heard of famous celebrities that the people involved may or may not have had to sign an NDA about. But I assure you, the core elements and details of these stories remain unchanged. I'm just trying to make sure I can tell you what I know about Vegas without getting anyone in trouble by revealing too much. After all, you know what they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. With that said, let's move on to story number 1. The man who bet it all on one last hand. This happened a couple years ago at the MGM Grand, late at night. The kind of Vegas night when everyone's either celebrating a win, too drunk to know they lost, or just trying to claw their way back to even. I was sitting at a blackjack table, low stakes, just passing the time. Across the room, though, there was a high-limit table that had caught my eye earlier, mostly because there was this guy there who looked completely out of place. Not in a sketchy way, he looked clean, normal, well-dressed, maybe early 30s, but something about him gave me this weird feeling. He wasn't playing like a typical high roller. He wasn't showing off. No flashy watch, no crowd of friends around him. Just him, the dealer, and a massive stack of black chips in front of him. Every few minutes I'd glance over and that stack was slowly shrinking. He wasn't losing dramatically, just steadily. One hand at a time. $500 here, $1,000 there. It felt methodical. Like he was watching something slowly slip through his fingers and trying to pretend it wasn't happening. Eventually, I finished up and wandered closer, just out of curiosity. That's when I noticed something odd. This guy was muttering to himself between hands. Not angry, not frustrated, just quietly talking, like he was going over a plan. I caught pieces of it, stuff like one more run and just needed to hit. Honestly, it sounded more like someone trying to talk themselves out of a panic attack than a guy casually gambling. Then it got weird. He pushed his entire stack in on one hand. It had to be at least $15,000, maybe more. Dealer raises an eyebrow, asks if he's sure. He nods once, calm, focused, like it was the moment he'd been waiting for all night. She deals. He gets an 11. Without hesitating, he doubles down. There's this silence around the table. Even the other high rollers stopped what they were doing to watch. Dealer flips him a card, a 9. He's got 20. Dealer turns over her hand, 18. He wins. The guy exhales like he'd been holding his breath for an hour, and then just gets up. Doesn't press his luck, doesn't play another hand. He stacks his chips, nods to the dealer, and walks off. Now here's the part that stuck with me. As he walked past, I heard him say something under his breath. Rent's covered. That's it. I still think about that sometimes. Was he really gambling with rent money? Was he trying to save his house or maybe pay back something serious? Or was that just a figure of speech? Maybe rent was symbolic of something bigger. I don't know. But the way he looked walking away, calm, not relieved, but hollow, it didn't feel like a win. It felt like survival.
Hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you'd like to hear more crazy and weird Las Vegas stories, please support the channel by leaving a like and subscribing. First goal of this channel is to reach 100 subscribers. Also, if you have ever visited or lived in Las Vegas, Feel free to share a weird or funny story or encounter in the comments section. I might even feature it in the next video. Thanks again for the support. Let's move on to the next story.
He was an adult film star with millions of views online, but couldn't even afford a Vegas hotel room. This happened a while back at one of those low-stakes blackjack tables on Fremont. Pretty sure it was at the El Cortez. You know the type. $5 minimums, carpet that smells like regret, and a pit boss who looks like he's been working since the 70s. I was just there killing time and stretching out a small bankroll, not expecting anything wild. Then this couple sits down at the table. The girl looked complicated, kind of hot, kind of racked, like she was attractive once, but had gone back to the surgeon a few too many times. Lip filler, obvious implants, maybe some sketchy cheek stuff. You get the idea. And the guy? He looked super familiar, but I couldn't place him at first. Then it clicked. This dude was an adult film performer. I'm honestly a little ashamed to say I recognized him. Not exactly from acting skills, let's put it that way, but he's been in a ton of videos, millions and millions of views kind of videos. So I'm sitting there thinking, what is he doing here? At the lowest limit table in the cheapest casino on Fremont. It didn't make sense. But whatever, Vegas is weird. Maybe he's just low-key. Maybe he's being humble. But then he started losing. And when he started losing, he lost it. He wasn't just swearing at the cards. He started cussing out his girlfriend, snapping at her whenever she lost a hand. I got the vibe she was gambling his money, because every time she hit a cold streak, he got more and more agitated, loud enough that the tables started shifting in their seats. Then came the tantrum. He stood up, knocking his chair over, and started yelling about how the table was rigged, how he'd lost thousands already, how it was his money she was blowing. Security came over fast. He kept saying they were staying at the hotel, like that gave him immunity or something, but they still asked him to leave. Now, here's where it gets more surreal. The hotel's customer service desk was literally a few feet from my table, so I could hear everything. He was begging the staff to let him stay the night. He said he already paid for the room, couldn't afford to get another one, and lost too much to leave now. You could hear the panic in his voice, not rage anymore, just desperation. Eventually, they must have let him stay, because things calmed down and he walked off, still fuming but no longer shouting. I went back to my game, but I kept thinking about it. This guy had millions of views online. People would probably recognize him in public. He's in an industry that's insanely visible, even if no one wants to admit they know his name. And yet here he is, broke, gambling minimums, and pleading with hotel staff not to get kicked out of a prepaid room. And it made me wonder, is the adult industry really that underpaid even for people who are semi-famous? Or did he just blow all his money chasing a lifestyle he couldn't actually afford? I don't know. But if you're going to do something you probably wouldn't want your family or hometown to know about, shouldn't it at least make you rich?
The one role that changed everything. I saw something at a craps table once that honestly still messes with my head. It was late. One of those nights where you're not winning, but you're not ready to walk away either. I was at a $10 craps table, just throwing out small bets, talking with the other players, trying to stay afloat. Then this guy walks up. Older guy, dressed like he owned a couple businesses but didn't care about showing it off. No watch, no jewelry, no entourage. But you could tell right away, this dude had money. It was in the way he walked, the way he looked at the table, like he'd been here 1,000 times. He didn't talk to anyone, didn't look around, just placed his chips like he knew exactly what he was doing. And those chips, not a single one looked like mine. I was playing with greens and reds. This guy was stacking chips I'd never even seen before. Purples, oranges, even a $1,000 chip just sitting on the rail like it was a coaster. And then he started losing. Bet after bet. Just bleeding chips, no reaction, no swearing. Just a quiet, subtle frustration building. You could see it in the way his hands moved, sharper each time, more impatient. I don't know how much he lost, but it had to be tens of thousands. The stacks in front of him were shrinking fast. Then came the roll. Someone new picked up the dice. The table quieted down. I didn't even bet, just stood back and watched. The guy loads up the table. I mean, everything.
He throws down high-limit chips on place bets, hard ways, the field, pass line with full odds, like he's going all in on this one roll. I thought it was insane. He just lost a small fortune, and now he was doubling down? Dice go up. They land. Hard 8. And suddenly, chaos. The field hits, the hard way hits, his place bets pay out, the odds behind the line explode. I've never seen so many chips move at once in my life. The dealers were scrambling to count and stack everything. It looked like a casino scene in a movie. This guy, who just minutes ago looked like he was crashing and burning, suddenly had more chips in front of him than anyone at the table had ever seen. Still, he doesn't react. Not a word. Just calmly collects the chips, stacks them up like it's business as usual. Then, and this is burned into my memory, he pulls out a single 500 chip, places it on the layout in front of the dealer, gives the tiniest nod, and walks away. Didn't look at anyone, didn't say thanks, just vanished. The table was silent. I think we were all trying to figure out if we actually seen what just happened. I looked at the dealer expecting a raised eyebrow or a smirk or something. Nothing. Just another night in Vegas, apparently.
I think I watched a card counter get caught, but he didn't run. I was at the Bellagio a few years ago, just playing some low-stakes blackjack, minding my business. It was a weekday, slow night, the kind of night where the dealers chat a little more, the cocktail waitresses linger, and everyone's a little too tired or too broke to act cool. But one table over, there was a guy who wasn't playing like the rest of us. Tall, mid-30s maybe, clean cut, dressed nice but not flashy. The kind of guy who could either be an accountant or something else. He was playing black chips, $100 minimums. Not a huge deal, but what caught my eye was how calculated he was. He didn't speak, didn't drink, didn't play every hand, just sat there, watching the shoe, fingers tapping lightly on the felt, and then suddenly he'd bet heavy, like $1,000 out of nowhere. Then back down to the minimum again, then sit out 2 hands, then fire again. At first, I thought he was just chasing a weird superstition, but the way he stared at the cards, at every card that left the shoe, even the ones other players got, something about it felt surgical. That's when I realized he's counting, and he's really good at it. I'm no expert, but I've read enough and played enough to recognize it when I see it. The dealer definitely noticed too. She stayed professional, but you could feel the shift. Her movements got sharper. The pit boss came over and stood a little too close. No smiles, no jokes. Then came the moment. The player ramped his bet up to $2,000, biggest of the night, and hit a blackjack. Natural. He just nodded. Didn't even crack a smile. Right after that, 2 guys in suits showed up behind him. Not security. Not exactly. These guys had that look like they weren't there to break up a fight. They were there to end a career. One leaned in close and said something quietly in his ear. The guy didn't react. He just pushed in his chair, calmly collected his chips, all black and purple, and stood up. Then, in the only words he spoke all night, he said to the pit boss, "Your count's off by 2. Tell your dealer." He winked, then walked away, chips in hand, not in a rush, not looking over his shoulder. The suits didn't follow. They just watched him disappear into the casino like smoke. I asked the dealer afterward, was he counting? She just smiled and said, "Not anymore." You always hear about card counters getting tackled or dragged into some back room. But the real pros, they don't panic. They don't run. They walk away with a smile because they already know they beat the house. And the house, sometimes it lets them go. Just to remind them who's still in charge. I mean, it's technically not illegal or anything. What can the casinos do other than just kick them out and ban them from ever coming back again anyway?
He only bet on one number, and it was starting to freak me out. I've been a cocktail waitress at a Vegas casino long enough to know when something's off.
You see patterns. You learn how to spot the drunks, the cheapskates, the high-rolling tech bros who tip in crypto jokes. But every once in a while, someone walks in and just doesn't fit. That was this guy. He came in around midnight, older, maybe 60 or so. Plain black baseball cap, cargo jacket, big sunglasses, even though we were indoors. Not flashy at all, but he sat right down at a high-limit roulette table like he belonged there. First weird thing, he didn't order anything, not even water. Just waved me off like I was annoying static. Second weird thing, he only bet on one number, 22. Every spin, $500 a pop, just the number 22. No red, no splits, no corners, just one lonely chip, dead center. And here's where it got strange. After every spin, he'd write something down in this tiny black notebook. I mean, every spin, whether he won or lost. Just quick scribbles, then flip to the next page. After like 5 spins, I came back around and said something casual like, 22 your lucky number? He looked up at me and I swear to God, he said, no, it's not luck. It's a message. Didn't smile, didn't blink, just went back to writing. Now at this point, I'm weirded out, but whatever. I've had guys tell me we live in a simulation while chain-smoking Marlboros. Par for the course. But then, he starts getting really into it. Every time the ball didn't land on 22, he'd mutter numbers under his breath like he was doing some kind of code breaking. Then boom, 22 hits. You'd think he'd celebrate, right? Nope, no reaction. Just calmly pockets the winnings and immediately puts another chip back on 22. Writes something new in the notebook. Like that win confirmed something. Here's the kicker. He started making predictions. After a few more losses, he whispers to himself, 2 more. Then it hits again. Sure enough, 2 spins later, 22 hits again. I felt my skin crawl a little. This guy wasn't cheering. He wasn't thrilled. He looked agitated, like he was racing against something. I asked the dealer during a pit change who the guy was. No known player card, no reservation in the system. Security confirmed. He just walked in off the street. Eventually, after maybe an hour, he stood up, didn't cash out, just gathered his notebook, looked at the table and said quietly, "They'll shift it tomorrow. New pattern." Then he walked straight out the door. No drink, no tip, no goodbye. I was so curious, I followed up with the floor manager later. Apparently, the guy has been there before, multiple times over the last few years. Always different hats, different clothes, always playing roulette, always just one number, always taking notes. And here's the weirdest part. It's not always 22. Sometimes it's 14, sometimes 6. Once it was 0. But it's always the same routine, same quiet obsession, same scribbled notebook full of whatever the hell he's tracking.
I was playing slots one night at a casino on the Strip. Nothing fancy, just your usual clinking of coins, flashing lights, and that constant hum of hope and desperation. I was betting about $20 a spin, which for me felt pretty high. I mean, I wasn't blowing the bank or anything, but it was enough to feel the stakes. Right next to me were the same exact slot machines. Same flashing lights, same buttons, same animations, but this other guy was playing on them with way higher bets. Where I was pushing $20 per spin, he was dropping $500 each time the reel spun. Same machine, different world. He looked like someone who's been around Vegas a few times. Mid-40s, a little rumpled, like he hadn't slept in days. But still, sharp enough to know the game. Man, he was betting $half a grand every spin. What really made it impossible to ignore was his crew. A bunch of loud, drunk friends, borderline obnoxious, cheering and shouting commentary like it was a sports game. Come on, hit it big! Don't let it slip, bro! Every spin was a play-by-play in their drunken voices. They were clearly used to throwing money around, but what caught my attention was when, after another brutal losing streak, the friends started complaining loudly. Not about luck, but about the machine itself. These machines? They're rigged against people like us, one slurred, waving his hand at the slot, especially the big bets. They make sure those guys lose more. Another nodded. Yeah, the more you put in, the harder they hit you back. It's like the house is out to get the high rollers. I could see the frustration building, but the guy kept loading up the machine with stacks of chips like he believed something was just around the corner. I found myself wondering, was this guy actually so rich that losing hundreds or even thousands didn't really matter? Maybe he had a fortune stashed away and this was just a game to him. Or maybe he was a compulsive gambler who, despite having money, was still hurting with every loss, losing the equivalent of half his yearly income in one night. Maybe he was trying to keep up a front for his annoying, loud friends, pretending to be richer than he really was, but deep down was scared and worried. And then it happened. After what felt like an eternity of losing thousands, the machine suddenly lit up. The whole thing started flashing colors, the music got louder, and the screen showed a bonus round, and the numbers started climbing, fast, closer and closer to $100,000. His friends went nuts, yelling, high-fiving, jumping around like he just won the lottery. But here's the thing. By the time the machine stopped flashing, he hadn't made back what he lost, not even close. That bonus was huge, no doubt, but the losses before it were bigger. And even with the jackpot, he was still in the hole. What blew me away was how calm he was about it. No swearing, no smashing the machine, just a quiet, almost indifferent shrug, like losing hundreds of thousands was part of the plan. His friend leaned in and said, "Let's hit video poker or craps, maybe we can win it back." And just like that, they left the slot machines behind, their rowdy voices fading down the casino floor as they disappeared into the crowd. I sat there thinking about the whole scene, how someone could bet half a grand on every spin, lose that much, and still walk away ready to chase the next win like it's nothing. That's Vegas, a place where fortunes can disappear in a flash, and the only thing that matters is the next spin, the next roll, the next hand. Where losing a small fortune is just another step on the way to maybe, just maybe, winning it all back. In Vegas, it's not about how much you win or lose, it's about the chase, the hope that the next spin will be the one that changes everything, even if it never does. I found myself wondering, did he ever make his money back? Could he really afford to lose that much? Or was he just sinking deeper, throwing away more than he could handle, all while trying to keep up appearances for his annoying, loud friends? Did he leave that casino broken? Not just in his wallet, but inside, desperately trying to convince everyone, including himself, that it was no big deal. That's the real gamble, the one no one sees.
That's all the Vegas stories I have for today. Thanks for watching. Please give the video a like and subscribe for even crazier and weirder stories I'm working on presenting in the near future. If you have any weird, wild, or unusual Las Vegas confessions, please share in the comments. I might share them with everyone in the next video. Make sure to keep the language clean or it'll get flagged and I won't be able to see it. That's just how YouTube works, folks. Let's get this channel to 100 subscribers. Hope you enjoyed, thanks again, and see you in the next video.